Now, folks, all I know is what I read in the papers. I've been reading a lot about this dust, and I've been reading a lot in history, and Rob Wagner's script. It's got a story about it, was good, and all these, and that's how every civilization since time began in the whole world has been covered up. It's been this dust. It's a terrible thing to happen to those people that are out there in the Middle West where it is happening. But, on the other hand, it's a great tribute to feel that the Lord feels that you have a civilization that is so advanced in the rest of civilization that it is the first place to be buried under. I mean, you know, there's something in that, you know what I mean? Just think of our Middle West. I didn't think at first that we was that smart in Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas and eastern Colorado, but our Almighty, He must know now that it would ever cover up California for the same reason. I got my doubts. So my wife and daughter had just returned from a trip down in Egypt, and they went way up the Nile, flew up the Nile, went in at Luxor and went way down. She told me hundreds of feet down in underground that had been covered by the dust and storms of centuries and centuries to see old King Tut's and Ramesses and the old Pharaoh's tomb. That was a great civilization, see, buried in the blowing sand, see. Any old civilization they've ever dug up sometime, they go down and find 2 or 3 layers of civilization on it. All been covered up because they plowed underground that you shouldn't never plowed under in the first place, you know. And they cut down a tree that never should have been cut down anyhow. You know, we're always talking about pioneers and what great folks the old pioneers were. Well, I think if we just stop and look history in the face, a pioneer wasn't a thing in the world but a guy that wanted something for nothing. That's about all. You know, and he was a guy that wanted to live off everything that nature had done. He wanted to cut a tree down that didn't cost him anything, but he never did plant one, you know. He wanted to plow up land that should have been left to grass. I don't know, we're just now learning, you know, that we can rob from nature the same as we can rob from an individual. All he had was an axe and a plow and a gun, and he just went out and lived off nature. But really, he thought it was nature he's living off of, but it was really future generations that he was living off of, you know. Now, Roosevelt, you remember, here a couple of years ago, do you all remember this? Roosevelt suggested planting millions of trees in all the dry regions, you know. He said, ever so many miles, we'll put a row of trees clear across the country. Well, the Republicans had one of the best laughs they've had since 1928 when they read that. It says, imagine the government going into the tree planting business. What a nut idea. It was so nutty that it'll be about 10 or 15 years before they'll be compelled to do it. That's how nutty it was, see? Remember another one of his ideas, when he took the young boys off the roads and off the streets and put them in these CCC camps and had them all planting some little trees. And the press had they had a big laugh. I remember reading in the paper, you know, they called them sapling planters. It says, look at these young kids, they got them all planting saplings around. Well, if the sapling planters had started in about the time the Republicans took over the government from Grover Cleveland, we'd today be able to see the sun. But now wait a minute, I must get back from these political parties and get back to civilization, for there's nothing in common between politics and civilization. Ain't nothing common between those two at all. If as history has shown, the Lord does bury each succeeding civilization and buries them in accordance to the advancement of the people in that neighborhood, I feel proud that I come from that particular Middle West belt. If a civilization had to be buried as it becomes advanced enough, well, we feel proud that we're the ones to be plowed under first. That's all. In years to come, the archaeologists, I got that right, the archaeologists will dig and find Claremore, Oklahoma, and people will come there to the ruins and dig down and say, here lied a civilization, you know what? Well, then later on they'll unearth the state capitol, you know, and then eventually as Washington is covered up on account of its being the least civilized, it'll be the last place covered up. They will excavate in there and find the old Capitol and decipher some of the old hieroglyphics, that people of those days humorously called laws. They look, see all them, and they'll come from the four corners. I bet they come from all over the whole country, four corners of the earth, to see what queer race lived there. And they'll find places called banks where the money changers were. Men who in those ancient days lived by interest alone. Now, this is President's Day. We generally recognize anything by a week. We have them by week. We have Apple Week and Potato Week and Don't Murder Your Wife Week and Smile Week, with everybody going around grinning like a possum and for no reason at all. We have Don't Get Hurt by an Automobile Week. So somebody hit the bright idea and they said, here, if prunes are worth a week, the president ought to be worth something anyhow. And so they figured out they couldn't give him a week, but they compromised on a day. Well, the reason we give him a day was he cuts down on everybody. And they said, well, he's been cutting down, so we'll just give him a day instead of a week. So that's how we're very generous that way. We're wonderful with our presidents. When the sun is shining, we cheer them and let it start raining. And if they don't furnish us, some umbrella and some goulashes, it's punished by the government. Well, boy, we give them the boots right then. The man I'm going to try to pay a little respect here tonight, too, on account of being President's Day. We have no precedent in the accomplishments which this man has performed in the last, 7 weeks has always been in there. That bird has done more for us in 7 weeks than we've done for ourselves in 7 years. We elected him because he was a Democrat. Now we honor him because he's a magician. He's the Houdini of Hyde Park. And maybe this Houdini of Hyde Park can't do everything. He may not get our hands out of all the handcuffs which we have foolishly stuck our mitts out and got them into ourselves. But even if he can just get one hand loose, you know what I mean, and leave the handcuff hanging on the other, he will have accomplished a great deal. He's a fast worker. He was inaugurated at noon in Washington, and they started the inaugural parade down Pennsylvania Avenue, and before it got halfway down there, he closed every bank in the United States. Now, a Republican would have never thought of a thing like that. No, he'd have let the depositors close it. And mind you, Mr. Roosevelt was just 2 days ahead of the depositors himself. He was there, but that shows you how fast he works. He's ahead of you all the time that way. And he marched on down or drove on down to the White House, and then he says, I believe I'll call up the boys. So he called up McDonald, and this fellow had come from France. If we can't pronounce his name, says, come on over here. I want to talk it over with you birds. And so they've been over here. They went back smiling, but they had nothing signed. And, anyhow, then he took the Democrats out of the unemployment ranks, and he's made postmasters out of all of them. And he's made Christians out of the Republicans. And all but Ogden Mills. Ogden is still, he's running around, kind of yapping around, but he's really subsidized by the Democratic Party to kind of put up the appearance of a organized minority. That's what we have. You'd be surprised at the hordes of Republicans who are crawling up to this shrine in Washington to pay their respects to this modern Messiah, this maverick of that once disgraced the Roosevelt plan, by doing like Gandhi and joining the untouchables, the Democrats. Only Gandhi was better off because Gandhi was fairly well robed, but when Roosevelt went into the Democratic Party, it didn't even have a loincloth at all. Well, now, when he first went in there, it looked like he wasn't going to draw any dividends. Did you notice the first part of Roosevelt's career up to a late year was spent in doing nothing but nominating Al Smith for president? he'd always nominate Al. Be it a breakfast or a lunch or a clam bake or a horse race or even a Democratic Party where Roosevelt would nominate Al. You could wake him up in the middle of the night, I'll bet, and say, hey, wake up, and then right away, before you'd ask what you wanted, he'd nominate Al, you know? And he made some fine speeches nominating Al because he was nominating a very fine man. But of course, the country wasn't ready for democracy because it wasn't broke yet. But you talk about sweeping the country. Roosevelt swept the country like a new toothpaste. I would say they rushed up and voted for him just like buying tickets for some new Hollywood sex drama, you know? Well, sir, and he does everything. He does everything that quick, different from that. Look at the Wickersham. Wickersham worked 2 years and spent $2 million. And what did he do with his report? Turned in a report and says, now, I won't be sure. I can't get the absolute proof, but I think there's a little drinking going on around the country. And Roosevelt says, I'll do all that in just 3 words. Just give me 3 words. Says, let them drink. That's all. See? He says, let them drink, and he collected $10 million in revenue in the first 2 weeks. And if it had good beer, he'd have paid the national debt by now. Yes, sir. Wickersham turned in a lot of figures and things. And I said, no, just give me 2 figures. That's all I want, and I'll show you some results. Just give me 3 and 2. Just 3 and 2%. That's all. Well, you know, commissions are fine, but they turn in always a lot of data about something that ain't so good. You know what I mean? So what's the use of having a lot of statistics and data on something that you can't do? Well, kind of like garbage. What's the use collecting it if you ain't got nowhere to put it? I mean, you know what to do with it. Well, that's the way with commissions. Now, Mr. Hoover, the most conscientious, fine, hard-working man I expect we've ever had in the presidency. And appointing a commission is not any crime. It's been considered a very fine way of handling anything. But it just seems like a presidential commission don't get nothing done, you know. They don't really earn the breakfast that they give them at the White House the day they appoint them. That's what they don't do, you know. And now Mr. Hoover didn't get results because he asked Congress to do something. That's where he made a mistake. He ought to say, this fellow, Mr. Roosevelt, he just sends a thing up there every morning and says, here's your menu, you guys. Sign it, you know what I mean, right here, you know. Right here it is. What are you going to order, you know, and he tells them just what they're going to have. That's what he does, you know. Every morning he does that. All of them work different. They know how to work Congress. Now, Mr. Roosevelt, he never scolds them. You know, he kids them. That's what he does. He never scolds them. You know, Congress is really just children that's never grown up. That's all they are. And well, there you are. Now, Mr. Coolidge handled the thing altogether different. Now, there's a man that he handled Congress. He didn't pay no attention to them at all. He wouldn't mess with them. Congress at all. He never messed with commissions either. If the Creeks wasn't biting in the Columbia River and the Abyssinians wasn't practicing birth control, Mr. Coolidge, he never messed with them at all. He just let it go along, you know. He never cared. He knew how to handle the whole thing. Seems funny me up here telling all these Democratic things. You know, any big company is owned by Republicans, so Democrats ain't got nothing, you know. And so I asked these people, I said, how about it here? I'm going to get up and naturally say something complimentary about the Democrats. So they tell us, well, it's all right, Will. We'd rather have been saved by a Republican, but we will take a Democrat anyhow. Now, I understand, Mr. Roosevelt, somebody told me was listening in. Now, Mr. Roosevelt, we've turned everything over to you. We've given you more power than we ever give any man was ever given in the history of the world. We don't know what it's all about. We tried to run the country individually and collectively and along a democratic line, but boy, we gummed it up so you take it and run it if you want to, you know, and deflate or inflate or complicate or you know, insulate, and do anything just so you get us $1 or $2 every now and again, you know. And so you're our lawyer, and we're going to turn the whole thing over. Things are moving so fast in this country now that we don't know what it's all about. The whole country's cockeyed anyhow, and we're just appointing you, and you take it. You don't know what it's all about, but God bless you. Now that brings us down to taxes. Boy, when you bring us down to taxes, you're going to hear a howl like a pet coon. You know, brings us down there. This money coming from all the government is thrown away. Well, it just sort of looks like it might come Where's it coming from? Everybody says, where's the money coming from we're spending? Well, I don't know, but just offhand, I'd say it's coming from those that have got it, you know. Now, I don't know. That may be just a rough idea of mine. I don't know, but I kind of believe that's where it's coming from. But the big yell comes nowadays from the taxpayers. I bet you when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock and they had the whole of the American continent, and all they had to do to get an extra 160 acres was shoot another Indian, you know. Well, I bet you anything they kicked on the price of ammunition, you know. I bet they said, what's this country coming to? You know what I mean? Right, like we're doing now, you know. What's this country coming to? You know, that we have to spend a nickel for powder. Of course, they got the lead back after they dissected the Indian. But no matter, I don't know, it's funny. No matter what we pay, I don't care whether we pay high taxes, low taxes, medium taxes, or no anything. The yell is always the same. Of course, we know our government is costing us more than it's worth, but do you know of any other cheaper government that's running around now? I mean, do you? If you do, they'll sell you a ticket there anytime. You can try Russia. There's no income tax in Russia, but there's no income. Now the whole question is, how can we make such a holler on what the government wants to collect back from us, you know? I don't know what it's all about. This is just to kill time up here. It'll something else sometime. I don't know any more about this thing than an economist does, and God knows he don't know anything. Well, now, anyhow, on last Sabbath evening, I referred to the Pilgrims, our Pilgrims landing on Plymouth Rock. Well, boy, you ought to wait till I heard from New England. I split New England just wide open. It seems there's a town up there called Provincetown, and they have adopted a slogan which says, don't be misled by history or any other unreliable source. Here's the place where the Pilgrims landed. This is by unanimous vote of the Chamber of Commerce of Provincetown. And Provincetown has been made the official landing place of the Pilgrims. Any Pilgrim landing in any other place was not official. If he landed on Plymouth Rock, it just served him right, that's all. Now, in the first place, I don't think that this argument I've created up there, it's terribly important. The argument that New England has got to settle in order to pacify the rest of America is why were they allowed to land anywhere? That's what that's what we ought to know. As a race, there's never been any comparison between a Pilgrim and an Indian. Now, I hope my Cherokee blood is not making me prejudiced. I want to be broad-minded. But I'm sure that it was only the extreme generosity of the Indians that allowed the Pilgrims to land. Suppose we reverse the case. Do you reckon the Pilgrims would ever let the Indians land? Yeah, what a chance. What a chance. The Pilgrims wouldn't even allow the Indians to live after the Indians went to the trouble of letting them land. Well, anyhow, the Provincetown officials, they sent me a lot of official data that when the Pilgrims landed, they found some corn that the Indians had stored, and that the Pilgrims were about starved and that they eat the Indians' corn. And they claimed that the corn was stored at Provincetown. So then you see the minute the Pilgrims landed, they got full of the corn and then shot the Indians, and perhaps because they hadn't stored more corn. I don't know what it was. Of course, but they'd always pray. That's one thing about a Pilgrim. He would pray, mostly for more Indian corn. But You've never in your life seen a picture, I bet any one of you've never seen a picture of one of these old pilgrims praying when he didn't have a gun right by the side of him. You know, that was to see that he got what he was praying for.